Hi, shalom, friends. As you could see from the background, I'm talking to you on a very special day. Today is Chanuka. You know, the power of symbols and emblems is wonderful. You know, could you imagine if you would be walking somewhere in a country with a language you did not speak? Maybe perhaps you're in France or maybe in Saudi Arabia and you're really thirsty. And you love to say, I want a soda, but you don't know where to go. And then you see that familiar red and white emblem. And you say, that's where Coke is. And if you're going somewhere else, even in China, and you saw that big M, the red M, you know right away that there's a McDonald's. Well, to make a separation, you see a menorah. You don't even have to speak Hebrew. You know it's Hanukkah, that beautiful festival of lights. So I would like to talk to you a little bit about light. Light is actually magical. I have no other word to use for the word light. Of course, we could talk about life as the source of life and the source of warmth, but it's simply magical. Did you ever try to eat a delicious meal in a dark room? It has no taste. Did you ever try to have a meaningful conversation with a friend in a dark room? Almost always it fails. Somehow there's the magic of light that even if you know what's there, it looks different, it feels different, it is different because there's light in the room. And we Jewish people have a yontif, a good day, a festival, a day of celebration where for 8 nights we are creating light. Could you imagine what that does for the world? Certainly it does something for us. Let me try to develop this theme a tiny bit. As magical as light is, the contrast, which is darkness, is also somewhat mythical and magical, but in a negative sense. Now, I'm not talking about the necessity of 12 hours and 12 hours. I'm merely pointing out that when we are alone, we're in the dark. When we're uninformed, we're in the dark. When we feel abandoned, we're in the dark. So here we have 2 contrasts. Darkness in contrast to light. And the Jewish people, what we do is for 8 nights, when it gets dark out there, we light candles or we light an oil menorah. We actually create light. The story, the background. Well, many, many years ago, in the Holy Temple, there was an empire that tried to stamp out freedom of religion, and the Jewish people were able to prevail against their enemies, and they came into the Holy Temple. It was defiled. They fixed it, and they cleansed it, and they wanted to kindle the menorah, which is the candelabra. They could not find the proper oil until miraculously they found a cruse of olive oil or a jug of olive oil. And their joy was tempered with a sober realization that they only have enough for 1 night. And it would take at least another week to create this sacred oil to light the menorah. So they just trusted in God. They put all of that oil into the menorah, and for an additional 7 nights it lit. From there onwards, we light the menorah for 7 days. In addition to the first day, we have an 8-day holiday. Let's stop for a moment and to consider. So many miracles happened during that particular holiday. The few against the many. The weak against the strong. There was a victory of military might. Even in the temple, they also, when they cleansed the temple, they were able to bring sacrifices and offerings. Yet the big miracle and the great celebration is about that jug of oil, that miraculous oil that lit. I think it's very telling. Let's go back to light. As magical as light is, light also has messages. As we all know, a red blinking light causes some type of apprehension, some danger. Well, we're accustomed to green light, go. But even other types of light, like flickering lights, strobe lights, harsh lights, neon lights. Each and every one of them conveys a different message. So if you see a neon light, you might think that's an advertisement. If you see a strobe light, you might think of a dance floor. If you see a flickering light, you might want to check the electricity. What happens if you see a clear, steady, pure light? That brings serenity. It brings tranquility. It brings holiness. Those are the lights of Hanukkah. It's so interesting to me, very often, growing up in America, which is a blessed country, where everyone has freedom to celebrate their background. And often the Hanukkah lights, I wouldn't say compete, but are in contrast to many of the other holiday lights. Many of them are colorful, many of them are blinking. And yet, when I look at the menorah, and I see not a blinking light, and it's not an artificial light, it's not a garish light, it's not even necessarily an attractive light. It's a pure light. It's a steady light. It is a light that conveys a message of warmth and of holiness. I would love to spend 8 nights talking with you. So let me try to crystallize my thought in the following way. The temple, they lit with oil from a olive oil. Today, tens and hundreds of thousands of Jewish people light not candles, but have an oil menorah where they put in olive oil. Here we have oil. From where does the oil come from? An olive. Now, if you were an olive, a plump olive, enjoying the radiance of some sunlight in the Mediterranean, and then you have 2 choices. You could be plucked off and eaten, or put into a martini, or you could be crushed and pulverized and put under excruciating pressure and have your insides squeezed out and turn into oil. Which one would you choose? Well, both of them don't sound that attractive if you're an olive, right? You'd rather be on the tree. Who wants to be eaten or crushed? But let me do it more philosophically. Which one of these 2 is the olive truly reaching fruition to the extent of bringing blessing? If it's a food, only one person eats it. If it turns into oil, many can benefit. One little olive could suddenly turn into a source of inspiration for many when it turns into oil. Now, I don't want you to think that there are 3 stages. There's the olive, when it might be food, and then there's a period when it's neither food nor oil. Instead, it's going through purgatory, and then there's a 3rd level. After suffering, it turns into oil. No, my friend. You are permitted to see it as one fluid motion. An olive is developing into an oil. An olive is ripening into an object that can bring warmth and can bring light to many. In this case, the crushing of the olive is the process of creating light. It's not a process of punishment, and then as a reward, there's oil. It becomes part of the oil. And I believe that is the message, or one of the messages of Hanukkah. That pure, steady, holy light that we see for 8 nights. It's dark out there. Don't be overwhelmed. Create light. But it's dark out there. Understand the darkness is a preparation for light. Could you imagine little kids? They're all gathering. When are we going to light the menorah? When are we going to light the menorah? It's not dark enough. Not dark enough? I thought we're scared of the dark. We're scared of the dark until Hanukkah. Hanukkah, we make darkness into a celebration because it's an opportunity to truly shine. So friends, I give you some thought, some food to consider, to digest. Let's all imagine ourselves as potential olives that are going to give forth light. And in the meantime, until we reach that special day when we will meet one another in Jerusalem. Let me wish you a very festive and a very happy and a very bright and warm Chanukah. Shalom.